Why did some American musicians who were once relatively ordinary suddenly become global superstars overnight? The answer isn't the algorithm, it's one massive stage they all shared. Did your favorite artist get lucky enough to experience the BTS Effect this year? Get ready, because the map of the global music industry has just shifted forever. Number 8. The Unseen Producer's Awakening, Sarah Aarons. For years, the global music industry operated under a predictable hierarchy where behind-the-scenes songwriters rarely commanded the public spotlight, but the launch of the massive 2026 Arirang World Tour shattered that old framework completely. Australian-born, US-based songwriter Sarah Aarons was already highly respected within elite industry circles for her brilliant work on multi-platinum pop hits, yet her name remained largely unrecognized by the general public. Everything changed instantly when Big Hit Music officially unveiled the credits for BTS's highly anticipated sixth Korean-language studio album, Arirang, revealing Aarons as a primary producer and co-writer alongside longtime sonic architects like Dog and Xloop. When the album officially dropped on March 20, 2026, breaking streaming records within its first 24 hours, millions of listeners globally began meticulously dissecting the production credits, thrusting her name into worldwide trends overnight. The momentum escalated dramatically during the North American leg of the tour, where her intricate production work on the hit track, Swim, was blasted through cutting-edge 360-degree open stadium sound systems to over 50,000 fans per night, including historic multi-night engagements at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. This massive exposure directly translated into an unprecedented surge in digital metrics, as her discography experienced an immediate streaming spike, with industry insiders reporting a significant increase in demand for her production style from major Western record labels. By participating in this monumental cultural reunion, the group's very first comprehensive project following the successful completion of their mandatory South Korean military service, Aarons effectively bridged the gap between Western pop sensibilities and global K-pop infrastructure. Today, she is no longer viewed merely as a reliable studio songwriter for hire, but as a top-tier powerhouse visionary whose signature sonic branding shapes the modern global music landscape. But if you think a veteran studio producer stepping into the global spotlight is an incredible narrative, wait until you see how a rising indie artist completely transformed their career trajectory on the exact same stadium stage. Number 7. The indie Maverick's sudden ascent, Remy Wolf. Navigating the highly segmented Western independent pop ecosystem typically requires years of relentless touring across mid-sized club venues and regional festival circuits before a breakthrough occurs, but the sheer velocity of the 2026 Arirang World Tour completely short-circuited that timeline for California native Remy Wolf. Known for her eccentric production style and explosive vocal delivery, Wolf had built a deeply passionate, dedicated cult following, but her avant-garde aesthetic rarely penetrated the hyper-mainstream corporate global charts. That structural barrier dissolved entirely when she was selected to join a collaborative remix project tied directly to the global promotions of BTS's groundbreaking Arirang studio album, a strategic musical alignment that introduced her unique sonic signature directly to the most organized and fiercely loyal fanbase in music history. The commercial impact materialized instantly during the high-profile North American leg of the tour, where her distinctive background vocals and vibrant production additions were integrated into the pre-show stadium playlists and official interlude media packages across critical major market dates, including the massive, multi-night sold-out engagements at Stanford Stadium in California and Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. Watching 50,000 fans per night collectively Shazam her track while waiting for the main performance triggered a massive, irreversible digital chain reaction, causing her streaming metrics on major international platforms to spike by more than 200% within a single week. This explosive growth was further amplified by extensive social media discovery, as millions of global fans began generating short-form video content using her discography, effectively transitioning her from a respected niche indie darling into a recognized global pop contender. By embedding her distinct creative identity within the framework of this historic 2026 tour, the definitive global live entertainment event of the year marking the end of the group's military hiatus, Wolf successfully demonstrated that authentic, left-of-center artistry can captivate a stadium-level audience when paired with the right cultural catalyst. Her name is now firmly cemented on major industry radar screens worldwide, unlocking lucrative international festival headlining opportunities and high-level corporate brand partnerships that previously took artists a full decade to secure. Yet, as dramatic as this sudden indie ascension has been, it pales in comparison to the calculated corporate and creative resurgence of an R&B icon who used the exact same global stage to completely redefine their industry legacy. Number 6. The modern R&B renaissance, Lucky Daye. Reclaiming absolute mainstream dominance in a hyper-fragmented digital music market is one of the most difficult feats for an established R&B artist, but the massive cultural architecture of the 2026 Arirang World Tour provided the ultimate global launchpad for New Orleans' native Lucky Daye. Celebrated by critics for his immaculate vocal control and sophisticated, progressive take on traditional soul music, Daye had already secured critical acclaim and industry respect, yet a definitive crossover into the highest tier of global commercial pop stardom had remained elusive. The definitive turning point arrived when he was announced as a surprise guest performer for the highly anticipated multi-night stadium run at the iconic SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, taking the stage to perform a breathtaking, unreleased R&B-infused collaborative track alongside BTS members. This strategic live vocal showcase immediately captivated the massive stadium crowd of over 70,000 fans per night, while simultaneously triggering a massive wave of viral clips across global social media platforms that accumulated tens of millions of views within a mere 24 hours. The immediate real-world consequence of this explosive exposure was a staggering 300% surge in his catalog's daily streaming volume, with international audiences frantically diving into his previous studio albums and pushing his monthly listener metrics to all-time historic highs. Major Western music publications and global charting bodies quickly took notice of this unprecedented commercial shift, noting that Daye had successfully penetrated brand new geographic markets across Asia, Europe, and Latin America where his music had never previously charted. By seamlessly weaving his sleek, contemporary R&B identity into the monumental narrative of the group's grand 2026 post-military comeback tour, Daye effectively transformed himself from a domestic genre favorite into a universally recognized global powerhouse. His schedule was instantly flooded with high-profile international television appearances, major festival headlining offers, and lucrative global brand endorsements that officially elevated his career into an entirely new stratosphere of influence. However, while a seasoned R&B virtuoso commanding a stadium crowd is a masterclass in artistic evolution, nothing could prepare the industry for the sheer chaos caused by a rising Latin pop sensation who utilized the exact same tour to completely shatter traditional genre boundaries. Number 5. The Latin pop explosion, Omar Apollo. Navigating the competitive crossover market from a celebrated bilingual singer-songwriter to an absolute mainstream global phenomenon requires an extraordinary cultural catalyst, and the 2026 Arirang World Tour provided exactly that for Indiana-born Mexican-American artist Omar Apollo. Already recognized within the music industry for his rich falsetto, introspective lyrics, and seamless blending of traditional Mexican corrido influences with contemporary R&B and alternative pop, Apollo had built a formidable foundation, yet the upper echelons of international stadium-level stardom remained a distant frontier. The entire trajectory of his career altered course dramatically when he was announced as a major collaborative partner for the Latin American leg of the historic tour, specifically participating in a massive genre-bending remix of a leading track from the Arirang studio album. This groundbreaking cross-cultural musical alliance was brought to life in spectacular fashion during the tour's monumental stops at the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, where Apollo took the stage as a special guest performer before a roaring crowd of over 80,000 fans per night. The electrifying energy of these live performances, which perfectly synthesized raw Latin passion with high-octane global pop choreography, was captured by thousands of fans and distributed instantly across global digital networks, creating an unstoppable viral phenomenon that dominated social media algorithms for weeks. The commercial fallout from this massive exposure was instantaneous and unprecedented, causing Apollo's personal discography to experience a spectacular 400% explosion in daily streaming volume across international platforms. His streaming numbers skyrocketed not only across Latin America and the United States, but also saw a massive, unexpected surge throughout East Asia and Western Europe, charting his previous releases on domestic music charts where independent foreign artists rarely make an impact. Major international streaming platforms quickly added him to their most influential global pop playlists, while premier fashion houses and global consumer brands rushed to secure him for lucrative international endorsement campaigns. By positioning his distinct bilingual artistic identity directly within the framework of the most significant cultural entertainment event of 2026, marking the grand post-military reunion of the world's biggest group, Apollo successfully transcended his regional boundaries to become a certified global icon. This historic partnership demonstrated to the entire entertainment industry that traditional linguistic and cultural barriers are entirely obsolete when authentic artistic expression is amplified by a truly global fandom infrastructure. Yet, as staggering as this Latin pop breakthrough proved to be, the tour's ability to elevate talent reached an even more unexpected milestone when it completely revitalized the career of a brilliant alternative pop producer who had been working tirelessly in the shadows. Number 4. The alternative Alchemist's breakthrough, Fred Again. Establishing an absolute, undisputed chokehold on the mainstream global pop charts is a monumentally difficult task for an electronic and alternative house producer, but the massive scale of the 2026 Arirang World Tour provided London-born producer and artist Fred John Philip Gibson, known professionally as Fred Again, with the ultimate global amplification platform. While already deeply revered within the international electronic dance music community for his highly emotional, sample-heavy actual-life audio diaries and legendary, high-energy pop-up club sets, his brilliant sonic architecture had yet to fully penetrate the hyper-mainstream, stadium-level pop landscape on a truly global scale. The definitive turning point arrived when Big Hit Music officially confirmed that Fred Again had contributed his signature, euphoric electronic production and intricate vocal chopping techniques to a major stadium anthem on BTS's record-breaking Arirang studio album. This groundbreaking cross-genre collaboration came alive in spectacular fashion during the UK and European leg of the tour, where his explosive, driving beats and atmospheric synth arrangements were blasted through massive stadium sound systems during highly anticipated, multi-night sold-out engagements at the iconic Wembley Stadium in London. As over 90,000 fans per night experienced the overwhelming emotional weight of his production paired with the group's historic post-military reunion performance, a massive wave of live audio recordings and viral concert videos instantly flooded global digital platforms, accumulating hundreds of millions of views within a matter of days. The immediate real-world consequence of this unprecedented exposure was a staggering 450% surge in his personal catalog's daily streaming volume, with millions of new international listeners across Asia, Latin America, and North America frantically diving into his solo discography and pushing his monthly listener metrics to all-time historic highs. Major international music publications and global charting bodies quickly took note of this massive commercial shift, highlighting that Fred Again had successfully evolved from a highly respected electronic music innovator into a universally recognized mainstream powerhouse capable of moving stadium-sized crowds. His creative calendar was instantly flooded with high-profile international festival headlining requests, massive stadium solo tour bookings, and lucrative production offers from the world's most elite pop superstars. By seamlessly weaving his distinct, emotionally charged alternative electronic identity into the monumental narrative of the most significant live entertainment event of 2026, he proved that club culture and stadium pop could merge to create an entirely new global sonic paradigm. Yet, while an established electronic virtuoso expanding his global empire is a masterclass in creative evolution, nothing could have prepared the global music industry for the absolute shockwave caused by the artist occupying our number 3 spot, a name absolutely no one saw coming. Number 3. The cinematic Maverick's Metamorphosis, Ludwig Göransson. Predicting that a 2-time Academy Award-winning film composer and traditional instrumental orchestrator would suddenly become the most talked-about name on the global pop chart sounds like absolute fiction, but the monumental creative vision of the 2026 Arirang World Tour made this exact scenario a reality. Swedish composer, conductor, and producer Ludwig Göransson had already reached the absolute pinnacle of Hollywood success, having crafted the iconic, sweeping scores for massive cinematic masterpieces like Black Panther, The Mandalorian, and Oppenheimer, yet his brilliant work had always been confined to the structured world of television and film soundtracks. The entire trajectory of his career underwent a staggering, unprecedented shift when big hit music shocked the entertainment industry by announcing that Göransson had been brought on as the executive orchestral director and primary arranger for the live instrumentation of the entire Arirang Stadium tour. Tasked with completely reimagining the group's massive discography into cinematic, stadium-sized orchestral masterpieces, Göransson spent months blending traditional Korean instruments with sweeping Western symphonies and heavy hip-hop production. The real-world impact of this jaw-dropping musical experiment was unleashed during the tour's opening nights at the massive Seoul Olympic Stadium, where his breathtaking, live-conducted orchestral overtures and explosive horn arrangements sent literal shockwaves through the audience of over 60,000 fans per night. Viral audio clips and high-definition fancams of his sweeping, cinematic reimagining of classic tracks immediately exploded across global digital networks, accumulating a staggering 500 million views within a single weekend as fans scrambled to identify the mastermind behind the new arrangements. The commercial fallout from this massive cultural crossover was instantaneous, causing Göransson's personal streaming profiles and film score catalogs to experience an unprecedented 500% explosion in daily streaming volume across international platforms. Audiences who had never previously paid attention to film scores were suddenly streaming his cinematic past work in massive numbers, driving his catalog to the top of classical and mainstream charts simultaneously in over 40 countries. Major record labels and elite pop vocalists rushed to offer him lucrative mainstream pop production contracts, desperate to capture the massive, cinematic stadium sound that had defined the 2026 tour. By embedding his brilliant orchestral identity directly into the historic post-military reunion framework of the world's largest musical act, Göransson shattered the rigid boundary separating Hollywood orchestration from global pop stardom, proving that a film composer could command a stadium crowd just as fiercely as a traditional pop icon. Yet, as completely unexpected as this cinematic maestro's mainstream explosion proved to be, it only paved the way for a fiercely independent alternative R&B prodigy who used the exact same tour to completely redefine her entire industry destiny. Number 2. The alternative R&B prodigy's masterclass, Amari. Breaking through the fiercely competitive contemporary R&B landscape requires a distinctive artistic voice and an unyielding commitment to creative independence, but the massive global infrastructure of the 2026 Arirang World Tour provided Ghana-born, US-raised singer-songwriter Amari with an unprecedented international launchpad. Celebrated within alternative music circles for her ethereal, whisper-soft vocal delivery, boundary-pushing production style, and seamless blending of West African Afrobeat rhythms with Western pop and alternative R&B, Amari had already earned widespread critical acclaim and a dedicated, passionate cult following. However, establishing an absolute, undisputed commercial presence across the mainstream global charts had remained a major structural hurdle until she was officially announced as a primary featured artist on one of the most sonically experimental tracks within BTS's record-breaking Arirang studio album. This groundbreaking cross-continental collaboration reached a spectacular climax during the European leg of the tour, where she made highly anticipated surprise guest appearances during the monumental, multi-night sold-out engagements at the iconic Stade de France in Paris. Taking the stage before a roaring crowd of over 80,000 fans per night, her mesmerizing live vocals and magnetic stage presence instantly captivated the massive audience, while high-definition concert footage and viral fan cams flooded global digital platforms, accumulating over 100 million views within a mere 48 hours. The real-world commercial impact of this explosive exposure was staggering, triggering an immediate, unprecedented 550% surge in her personal catalog's daily streaming volume across major international platforms. New listeners from Seoul to Sao Paulo began frantically diving into her previous studio albums, driving her monthly listener metrics to all-time historic highs and charting her music in over 50 countries where her independent releases had never previously penetrated. Major global fashion houses and elite consumer brands rushed to secure her for lucrative international marketing campaigns, while premier music festivals worldwide upgraded her to prime, main stage headlining slots. By seamlessly weaving her rich West African heritage and avant-garde alternative R&B identity into the monumental narrative of the most significant live entertainment event of 2026, marking the grand post-military reunion of the world's biggest group, Amari successfully shattered regional boundaries to establish herself as a certified global pop powerhouse. Yet, as extraordinary as this alternative R&B renaissance proved to be, it merely set the stage for the definitive, chart-topping phenomenon occupying our #1 spot, a powerhouse vocalist whose absolute meteoric rise completely rewrote the music industry rulebook. Number 1. The vocal powerhouse's coronation, Victoria Monet. Ascending from a highly respected, Grammy-winning industry songwriter and independent R&B darling to an absolute, undisputed global pop sovereign requires a cultural phenomenon of cataclysmic proportions, and the monumental framework of the 2026 Arirang World Tour provided exactly that for Sacramento-born virtuoso Victoria Monet. Blessed with immaculate vocal control, complex choreography skills, and a brilliant pen that had previously crafted multi-platinum hits for the world's biggest pop stars, Monet had already secured critical adoration, yet a definitive leap into the highest echelon of Universal Stadium-level commercial dominance had remained the final frontier. The entire landscape of the music industry shifted on its axis when Big Hit Music officially announced that Monet was not only a primary co-writer on the title track of the record-breaking Arirang album, but would also serve as the exclusive opening act for the entire history-making North American stadium leg of the tour. This unprecedented alignment placed her directly before a staggering aggregate audience of over 1 million fans across iconic venues, including multi-night sold-out spectacles at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey and Cotton Bowl Stadium in Dallas. Stepping onto those massive stages with a world-class troupe of brass musicians and executing flawless, high-octane dance routines while maintaining pitch-perfect live vocals, Monet completely mesmerized 70,000 fans per night, triggering an immediate, historic digital gold rush. High-definition performance footage and viral TikTok clips of her electrifying sets exploded across global networks, accumulating an astonishing 700 million views in less than a week as the global fanbase launched a massive, coordinated campaign to stream her discography. The immediate real-world consequence was a breathtaking, unprecedented 600% explosion in her personal catalog's daily streaming volume, catapulting her previous solo releases to the absolute top of international charts and driving her monthly listener metrics to historic, all-time highs across Asia, Europe, and Latin America. Major global entertainment conglomerates and premier luxury fashion houses immediately flooded her management with multi-million-dollar endorsement offers, while top-tier stadium venues worldwide rushed to book her for her own solo headline stadium tour for the following year. By flawlessly embedding her rich, classic R&B pop artistry into the monumental narrative of the absolute biggest live entertainment event of the decade, the definitive post-military reunion of the world's premier musical act, Monet did not merely participate in the tour, she successfully executed the ultimate industry coup to claim her rightful throne as a certified global icon.